Let's focus, let's get back where we need to be at. This is Worldwide Classic. I'm Southside Trey. Let's get straight to it. I started this show just in time for last year's Wrestlemania. I told y'all we was just getting started. And now a year later, we right back at it. This is also the 50th episode. So before we even get started, I gotta salute to everybody that's been checking out Southside Trey and watching Worldwide Classic. Last but not least, this is also the official podcast debut of Worldwide Classic, brought to you by Full Time Digital House. But let's go ahead and jump into it so I can show y'all why this is one of the best wrestling talk shows that exist on planet Earth. Apparently, it's been a lot of talk about WWE having low ticket sales. And this is some crazy news to hear with WrestleMania 1 week away. But you want to know what's not crazy? Is the fact that I've been talking about this almost the entire time this show has existed. Worldwide Classic didn't start for me to shit on WWE. That was not the objective. It was finally getting a chance to celebrate one of my favorite sports with fans all around the world. And when Triple H first took over the creative in WWE, I was one of the people that was actually looking forward to that change in the company. So that thought process only lasted the first episode, because night one of last year's WrestleMania was almost a disaster. The only thing that saved night one from last year was the triple threat main event. You know, the main event match that was between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns. But somehow, after that match, everything went downhill from there. The domino effect from that match was so disastrous that at this year's WrestleMania, Sunday night, the main event will be CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, which is precisely 2/3 of the night one main event from last WrestleMania. Needless to say, Triple H has left a lot to be desired as a wrestling fan. So when I hear all of this talk about WWE having low ticket sales leading into WrestleMania, of course, me personally, I'm not even checking for the numbers. I'm not an accountant and I don't work for the financial team in WWE. So I could care less about money being the bottom line. It's just in my way of thinking, if the show is not good, how the hell do you expect to make any money? Everything from the vision, losing sight of the bigger picture, the flop that was the John Cena retirement tour, Cody Rhodes being overused and overdone, and every other terrible booking decision. This is why ticket sales are low. I've also pointed out on numerous occasions, where are the real superstars in the company? This is not the Statue of Liberty, and Roman Reigns can't be the only one holding the torch. And going into this WrestleMania, it's becoming as obvious as it's ever been. What the hell did people think was gonna happen? Especially if you've been watching Worldwide Classic. With TKO owning WWE and knowing that the ticket sales are horrible going into the biggest show of the year, their honest to God solution for this was to bring back Pat McAfee. No disrespect to Pat McAfee, but what importance does he serve in the world of professional wrestling? He's a great commentator, but that's about as far as it goes. Am I wrong? In WWE, the equivalent of a football field is the wrestling ring. Pat McAfee's primary responsibility in WWE is the call to action from the commentary booth, which just so happens to be outside of the ring. Pat McAfee ain't got shit to do with what's going on inside of the wrestling ring. Furthermore, Pat McAfee is not a manager, maybe with the exception of NXT, when he had another unnecessary feud with Adam Cole. But notice how I said NXT. In terms of Pat McAfee being involved in the ring, NXT is more like it. Not on the main roster, and damn sure not on the biggest show of the year. The ironic thing about it all is the rumors and reports that we're hearing that this is a TKO decision. Reports are trying to put the blame on the TKO group and trying to take the weight off of Triple H and the WWE creative. I don't give a damn who people are trying to point the finger at or blame. It's everybody's damn fault. From WWE creative all the way to TKO Group. This might as well be a RICO case. And all parties involved are guilty. But I'm going to talk about it from the TKO side first. Who the hell do y'all think Pat McAfee is? We know that he's successful at a lot of things that he's doing right now. But being one of the main components at Wrestlemania is not one of them. So from a business perspective, I could see what the TKO group is trying to accomplish. In their eyes, they really do look at Pat McAfee as a big time player in the entertainment industry. And it almost kind of reminds me of how Vince McMahon thinks that Triple H is a bigger superstar than Sting, amongst other legends. These people are delusional, and it's kind of concerning, with them being the top executives in WWE. So in case I didn't hit the point hard enough, let me say it again. Pat McAfee is not the guy that's going to save WrestleMania. The last time Pat McAfee was involved this way in WWE, Gunther was choking his ass out. So if this is the type of movement that we're going to see from TKO moving forward, then the WWE is in trouble. This is the 50th episode of Worldwide Classic. And for 49 of them, I've already talked about how much WWE is flirting with disaster. TKO is acknowledging that fact by adding Pat McAfee to the main event of night one. So I will give TKO that much credit. The fact that they are aware there's a problem. But there's also a bigger problem. TKO doesn't know what the hell is doing. Now, let me get WWE, because I love how these reports are trying to put the blame squarely on TKO. Check this out. We not doing that. Because the last time we saw Pat McAfee, he was having some weird and unnecessary feud with Gunther. Which till this day, I still don't know why WWE felt like Gunther should be ever having a match with a Pat McAfee. What the hell sense does that make? And then it was right after Gunther lost the World Heavyweight Championship at last year's WrestleMania. Keep that in perspective. Gunther lost the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania in the opening match of night one, which was another dumbass decision. And then fresh off that loss, instead of redeeming himself in any way, he starts to bully Michael Cole and the commentary team. I thought this was pro wrestling, guys. And I'm fair enough to say that that could have worked just as a small angle. But it segued into an actual match at a PLE, when they could have put that shit on Monday Night Raw or NXT. Did the TKO group come up with that decision too? This is why I ain't trying to hear shit WWE has to say. And that's why I'm not gonna let them off the hook for this Pat McAfee situation. I'll go so far as to say that WWE is part of the reason Pat McAfee is even as big as a celebrity that TKO thinks that he is. I don't remember Pat McAfee being a regular on College Game Day. Maybe he was, but from my understanding, that job didn't come around until Pat McAfee showed and proved on the WWE commentary team. Maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but even the podcast that Pat McAfee has, I could argue the fact that that show got even bigger because of his involvement in the WWE. So however way you want to flip it, WWE put Pat McAfee in position. So in a little defense of TKO Group, why wouldn't they look at Pat McAfee as the answer? The WWE has hyped the man up like he was really that important to the company. Pat McAfee is a nice compliment to WWE, but he is not the person that should be anywhere near Randy Orton unless he's getting his ass RKO'd. That's the only way we should see Randy Orton and Pat McAfee interact with each other. Keep in mind that I'm batting 1,000 right now with Worldwide Classic. I've been calling out all of this bullshit for a year now. Part of this was this partnership between Randy Orton and the country singer. The country singer that has a name that me as a grown ass man, I'm not calling another man that name. I mean, what happened to us in the wrestling world? We went from people that was named the Bruiser, the Crusher, the Legend Killer, to somebody named after a damn donut. That was wrong and was something that Randy Orton shouldn't have been a part of. WWE didn't even capitalize on that partnership. When Randy Orton gave J-Roll the RKO, the world already knew it was going to happen. That was something that should have been a surprise. That was the only way to get the heat they was looking for, is that moment had to catch people off guard. WWE literally teased J-Roll being RKO'd for 2 weeks straight. It's almost like they had to put down a safety net for this to happen. It's time to take the training wheels off. Because, okay, cool. Randy Orton finally RKO'd J-Roll. But he didn't kick him in the head. So as far as I'm concerned, he might as well have not done nothing at all. Why are we taking that type of a half measure when we need to go all the way? And then you have Pat McAfee run out here and be one of the worst managers I've seen in WWE. I hope y'all don't think Southside Trey is just here to give a hot take, because Southside Trey doesn't know what the hell a hot take is. I'm just telling it like it is. To be a manager for Randy Orton, the tone has to be right for one. Pat McAfee has the type of voice that belongs on ESPN College Game Day. So basically, he was good where he was at. This is WrestleMania, with Randy Orton back being the Viper. The only way we were supposed to see Pat McAfee at WrestleMania is sitting his ass at the desk next to Michael Cole. The fact that TKO even thought about Pat McAfee is a failure on WWE, because that means that these people have no stars in position for TKO to feel comfortable with. And we're talking about a championship match to main event night 1 that has Cody Rhodes involved. Cody Rhodes is supposed to be the next big superstar in WWE. Cody Rhodes is supposed to be the Roman Reigns of this era moving forward. Why would you even need to add anybody to this match at all? In all honesty, you didn't need to add anybody to this match. Randy Orton didn't need to be on the phone with anybody else. Just Randy Orton getting back into Viper mode was good enough. The voices in his head is the only other people that need to be involved in this main event. That was good enough. Didn't the report say that almost 80 million people watched the video of Randy Orton turning heel? Was that a failure in the eyes of TKO? That was actually the best news the WWE has received in a long time. Because for the first time in a long time, a wrestler that was not involved in anything else other than wrestling had almost 100 million views in a short amount of time. That's very impressive in this day and age. The only other wrestlers to achieve those type of numbers have been The Rock and John Cena. So when you see those two guys doing those numbers for WWE, you got to keep Hollywood in mind. Randy Orton is not Hollywood. He's strictly WWE and he's pro wrestling only. This was actually a milestone for WWE. And this just leads back to the incompetence of TKO. Because Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes had the potential to be bigger than everything that was going to happen in night 2. But since this is the official podcast debut, we just going to start fixing these issues right here and right now. So from every episode of Worldwide Classic moving forward, I'm just going to give you the Southside Trey version of WWE. So let's start right here with the Randy Orton, Pat McAfee situation. The only person that should have been on that phone talking to Randy Orton was Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon being paired up with Randy Orton would make WWE. Forget just WrestleMania. It would have made that a super success as well. But WWE would be back on the map. Last year, AEW had a storyline with Jon Moxley, and they made it seem like it was a possibility Shane McMahon would join Jon Moxley. There were even reports about Shane McMahon actually having a meeting with Tony Khan. In case we don't remember, that was the biggest thing AEW had going on at the time. And that's mainly because Shane McMahon is very important to professional wrestling. Look at everything that's happening in the WWE. From the scandals going on with Vince McMahon, to Vince McMahon not being in the company, to the rumors of Vince McMahon still running the company behind the scenes, to even now with TKO seemingly on bullshit with WWE. And the thing that makes this scenario so great, even if I do say so myself, is that TKO could have still been involved. TKO could have called this a corporate takeover. That could have been the entire premise of this storyline. Cody Rhodes could have been seen as Triple H's guy, the face of WWE. And TKO could have had their own plans in mind. And that's having their own face of the company, which would be Randy Orton. But you could have had Shane McMahon as the spokesperson for TKO. There are rumors that Vince McMahon has still been holding on to creative, which if you're a WWE fan, you shouldn't be that surprised. This was a rare opportunity for wrestling to feel like there were real life scenarios going on behind the scenes. Because as a fan and as a reporter of wrestling, you really would have to speculate what the hell is going on. Is Shane McMahon partnering up with TKO to move on from traditional WWE? This was your entire storyline right here. And if any executive at WWE or TKO just happens to stumble across this video, you still got time. WrestleMania is a week away. Have Shane McMahon get involved in that main event. This is how you could fix everything. Even if they haven't been in communication with Shane McMahon, get in communication with Shane McMahon. Just like how the story went with Randy Orton on the phone for 2 or 3 weeks, TKO needs to get on the phone right now. It's time to talk to Shane McMahon, and it's time to do some things to save WWE. This is how you could still keep Pat McAfee involved. You could just be the spokesperson until the real guy shows up. That being Shane McMahon. Even last Monday night, Stephanie McMahon made an appearance and confronted Cody Rhodes, which on some level is kind of confusing. I mean, I understood the message that Stephanie is trying to deliver, but why is she trying to deliver that message? She's one of the main victims of Randy Orton in the past. So what difference does it make to Stephanie McMahon if Cody Rhodes is ready or not? I know she said the line that she cares about Cody, but like one of my favorite shows, Poker Face, that's bullshit. I don't think I've seen Stephanie McMahon or Cody Rhodes interact in WWE ever. So from the storyline's perspective, where did all of this care come from? Unless Shane McMahon is going to be a part of the bigger story. He's always been one of the better promos in WWE. And I think Shane doesn't get enough credit for that. Let's keep in mind that Randy Orton's opponent is Cody Rhodes. And when Cody Rhodes is in the ring with the right person, then you see the best of Cody Rhodes in a promo. Even just this last Monday night, when Cody Rhodes had the segment with Stephanie McMahon. I just watched Cody Rhodes have a whole feud with Drew McIntyre for about 3.5 months. There wasn't one time where I enjoyed those promos as much as Cody and Stephanie McMahon. Saying all that to say, I think Cody Rhodes and Shane McMahon could be magic on the microphone. We saw a little glimpse of that in that same promo with Stephanie McMahon. However we spin it, we're still talking about second generation stars. So just all of these dynamics between Dusty Rhodes, Vince McMahon, Dustin Rhodes, Stephanie McMahon, I think a promo feud with Shane McMahon could be one of the best in Cody's career. And I know that this is probably a long shot, but somewhere down the line, it would be nice to see Dustin Rhodes actually come back to the WWE. With all of these people that show up to whoop Cody Rhodes' ass every single month, what type of psychology would it be to not have this man's brother there to have his back? I could even make this long-term storytelling. Remember when WWE purchased WCW? Who was the guy that showed up on WCW Nitro to make the announcement? That was Shane McMahon. And in that storyline, Shane was supposed to be the owner of WCW. You got a chance of playing off what happened back in the day with the invasion angle. We could really see Shane McMahon talk about how his father conspired to get him out of the wrestling business, and how every time Shane McMahon wanted to be a part of the future for WWE, Vince McMahon just shot it down. And then one of the biggest full circle moments of them all, Shane McMahon is coming back to claim the company that he feels is rightfully his. So let's keep it moving, man. Even though I have some more ideas and thoughts about the Randy Orton situation, we'll just save that until the next time. For this next topic, I gotta talk about the well-being of Liv Morgan. We all saw Monday night how she collided with Roxanne Perez, and now we've heard that Liv Morgan is under concussion protocol. We would hope so, because we all saw the head injury, but more disturbingly, we heard the head injury. That was a nasty spot, and I know it wasn't intentional from Stephanie Vaquer. But that's a dangerous ass lady. When she pushed Liv Morgan into Roxanne Perez, she almost knocked out Liv Morgan on national TV. But then she picked Liv Morgan up and threw her into a TV. How was Liv Morgan even gonna make it to WrestleMania? Let's just be real here. Concussion protocol. I'm not a doctor and I don't know the new science surrounding concussions, but I don't think I need a medical degree to determine that 2 weeks is not enough time to get over that type of a concussion. And it would have been a great match for the world title. Notice how I said it would have been. This is a scary situation because no athlete wants to miss out on the biggest show, especially when it's just a few weeks away. Liv Morgan had to go through the proper channels to get this shot, which includes the Royal Rumble. And I think Liv Morgan was first or second in that match. So I could argue the fact that that Royal Rumble is damn near like a boot camp in itself. On top of that, Liv Morgan has been very consistent since she's returned to the WWE. This has all been a part of her revenge tour. So I know in Liv Morgan's mind, there's no way she's gonna miss WrestleMania. That's just the pride of any great competitor. Just like when you see injured players in the Super Bowl playing through that injury, they're just not gonna miss that type of opportunity. Unfortunately for Liv Morgan, it's no responsible way the WWE could put Liv Morgan in this match at WrestleMania. This is not a rumor or a report, but you're hearing it first on Worldwide Classic. I just can't see it happening. From a responsibility standpoint, this is feeling a lot like Kevin Owens from last year. KO was having a hell of a year and a hell of a start to 2025. And I hate the fact that he missed WrestleMania when he was so close from the event. As fans, we might be getting robbed for the second year straight. I don't know what the WWE is going to do in that situation. I'm just giving you the perspective of what I feel like a responsible and a professional company should do. This is the 1 year anniversary of Worldwide Classic. And for 300 of those 365 days, I've pointed out numerous times how the WWE has been unprofessional. You could say it's my thoughts. You could say it's my opinion. I would say go listen to CM Punk on the Art of Wrestling podcast with Colt Cabana. This was CM Punk's first public interview after he walked out of the WWE, after he made claims that the medical staff wasn't worth a damn. Let's go back to Kevin Owens real quick. It was something weird about Kevin Owens having that neck injury, because if I'm remembering correctly, It was either said by Kevin Owens or somebody else that Kevin Owens was already dealing with a neck injury. And at the beginning of 2025, we saw Kevin Owens have a crazy ass ladder match with Cody Rhodes. And then the following month, Kevin Owens had an Extreme Rules match against Sami Zayn. So why the hell would he have that type of match where he could possibly end his career? Twice. All it takes is one wrong move for any injury. But you're talking about an ongoing neck injury. The same neck injury that retired Big E. So this is why I'm just kind of concerned for Liv Morgan. Because either way it goes, it's a lose-lose situation. If Liv Morgan just so happens to compete at WrestleMania, coming off a concussion, I think fans are going to be scared every time she takes a bump. And she's getting in the ring with the lady that caused the concussion. Again, I'm not saying Stephanie Valkyrie is a reckless wrestler, but the energy that she seems to get from Liv Morgan has Stephanie Valkyrie turned up to another level. When we really look at the overall build to their championship match at WrestleMania, this rivalry seems a little bit too real. On the flip side of everything going on, this is the time that I have Stephanie Valkyrie turn heel. I think this is the natural progression to her character right now. I thought that was kind of foolish to have Liv Morgan crying over the things that Valkyrie said to her a couple of weeks ago. But now looking at how everything is played out, the WWE has an opportunity to get some heat on Stephanie Valkyrie. Whether Liv Morgan competes at WrestleMania or not. If she competes at WrestleMania, then this could be just like Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler from Payback about a decade ago. I thought that match was an underrated classic because Dolph Ziggler, being one of the best sellers that he is, he made it seem like Alberto Del Rio was giving him a concussion during that match, and that every kick that Del Rio was landing was legitimately injuring Dolph Ziggler. And that made the fans turn on Alberto Del Rio, who came into the match a babyface. If WWE makes the ill-advised decision to have Liv Morgan compete at WrestleMania, you have to go that route. This is the second time on the same show that I'm introducing scenarios that could make the sport feel like a real thing. I think Stephanie Valkyrie is top 3 of all women that's wrestling right now. Her moveset and her IQ is next level. So everything in the ring is covered. But now she's coming with something that a lot of the women lack from time to time. She has this dangerous aura about her. Just her personality and her overall vibe. She done pretty much just ran through the ladies in Judgment Day just like that. The last lady standing is Raquel Rodriguez. And if Liv Morgan can't compete at WrestleMania, I think they have to set up a scenario where Raquel goes down to have that match. I wouldn't mind Raquel Rodriguez winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Only because it plays into the overall storyline. I feel like WWE has been teasing the breakup of Raquel and Liv Morgan. So this scenario could be perfect to that storytelling. Liv Morgan having the heartbreak of missing her WrestleMania moment, but watching Raquel Rodriguez live her dream. But as a fan, I just want to see Liv Morgan be safe. Unfortunately, there's no way that could happen if she competes at WrestleMania. So now it's time for our main event. This is Worldwide Classic. It's the 50th episode and it's also the 1-year anniversary. But to a lot of the fans, today is also the day that Southside Trey is turning heel. Who do y'all think is the greatest superstar of all time? I'm not talking about in-ring wrestler because those are two different categories. I'm just talking about the biggest superstar of all times. Whether people like it or not, for a long time, that was Hulk Hogan. But then over time, I think I've heard 80% of people say Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm not here to dispute that necessarily. But how can Stone Cold Steve Austin be a bigger superstar than The Rock? Now, for everybody balling their face up right now and breathing hard, let's argue. Let's get straight to it. I've seen so many people dismiss The Rock. And one of the things that I've heard more often than not is that The Rock turned his back on WWE to go Hollywood. And so from that, it makes me wonder what the real issue is with The Rock. Because it couldn't be those things. Which brings me back to Stone Cold Steve Austin. If people are going to say that Steve Austin is the greatest superstar of all time, then fine. To each his own. But let's not be irresponsible and leave out the fact that everything that people complain about from The Rock, I could argue the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin is that times 10. And this is where my confusion comes in. Did Stone Cold Steve Austin himself not say that he took his ball and went home? And when did he first do that? He did that when the WWE wanted Stone Cold to put over Brock Lesnar. When Brock Lesnar was a rookie and first got to WWE, the company already made his mind up that he was the next big thing. What better way to drive that point home than to have Brock Lesnar defeat the top star in WWE at the time? This is why they booked Steve Austin to lose to Brock Lesnar right away. Stone Cold's response was, he just quits WWE. And you ain't got to argue with me about it. That's the bottom line. Because Stone Cold said so. You can't find an interview or a podcast where he doesn't admit this. His own words are, he felt like there wasn't enough of a build-up for him to just lose clean to Brock Lesnar. Take what you will from that. What I get from that are the same qualities that make those people not like The Rock. Again, I'm just a little confused. But this is Worldwide Classic. Just consider this wrestling therapy. Because I have to make sure that we're going off facts and not feelings. The facts show that The Rock took that spot against Brock Lesnar. And as the WWE champion, The Rock lost clean to Brock Lesnar. And it was a moment for Brock Lesnar that helped make his career. Over 20 years later, Brock Lesnar is still in a prominent spot at Wrestlemania. What was the harm in Stone Cold Steve Austin passing the torch to Brock Lesnar? And why do so many people have a problem with The Rock when The Rock did all of the jobs that Stone Cold refused to do? I can't even paraphrase the complaints that people have against The Rock. Because I guess in my ears, it all sounds so silly that I can't even perceive it into words. But I guess some people are trying to label The Rock as if he's a diva. Brock Lesnar is not the only person that Stone Cold didn't want to put over or even have a match with. There's a wrestling company that exists, and they have some pretty good history in this sport. And this company was founded by Jeff Jarrett, a former WWE superstar and current legend in the world of wrestling. Jeff Jarrett's contribution to the sport of wrestling after he was done being a wrestler should be studied. And it should be case examined so people could follow those instructions on how you do pro wrestling. Jeff Jarrett did things in the business that quite honestly no man or woman has been able to do. Even though Jeff Jarrett isn't directly involved in TNA operation these days, TNA is still in operation these days. Back to the main point of all of this, Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't want to work with Jeff Jarrett and put him over as the next big star in WWE. How can people say that The Rock has a diva mentality, but I haven't heard any stories about The Rock not working with any other wrestlers in the company? I haven't heard stories of The Rock refusing to put people over. Shawn Michaels was just on 7 p.m. in Brooklyn with Carmelo Anthony, which I thought was a cool interview, by the way. To my knowledge, you don't see the legends in wrestling on podcasts like that. And just call it what it is. But on the podcast, HBK was asked why he never worked with The Rock. And he jokingly said because The Rock didn't like him. But he quickly laughed it off and did a little PR work. I'm not here to call HBK a liar because this ain't about that. But I've spent years listening to almost every wrestling podcast that's available from people that I'm fans of course. Most things that I'm talking about are not my opinions. I'm going off things that I've heard from the sources themselves. Not reports, not rumors. Believe it or not, we're in the future now. And all of the legends that we grew up watching on TV or listening to on the radio, they all have a voice via podcasting. So we're literally getting it straight from the source. Multiple sources have suggested that Triple H and Shawn Michaels just didn't get along with certain wrestlers in the company. If we're really fans of wrestling, we know Shawn Michaels was an asshole back then. So it's not hard to realize that Triple H and HBK weren't the greatest guys to get along with. So going back to our point about The Rock. This is not The Rock's fault why he didn't wrestle Shawn Michaels. Because Shawn Michaels didn't have a problem super kicking The Rock as a special guest referee on the first episode of SmackDown. I think little pieces of evidence like that say more than I can. Triple H didn't seem to have a problem working with The Rock. And why would he? The Rock is 60% of the reason why Triple H is even looked at as a real WWE superstar. Like I say, if y'all don't want to tell the truth, then that's okay. It's 1,000 other wrestling podcasts available. And I know a lot of them love everything. On Worldwide Classic, your host being Southside Trey, I cover everything and I don't sugarcoat nothing. Triple H was paired up with different guys to try to spark a rivalry and feud back then in the 90s. None of it was clicking. And just like Stone Cold Steve Austin had Savio Vega as his original rivalry, Triple H had Mark Mero as his. This is the same rivalry where Sable was introduced and became a bigger star than both those guys. There were 0 feuds Triple H was having that was successful. That was until The Rock showed up. If it wasn't for The Rock, Triple H might have not had been successful in WWE. These really aren't opinions, ladies and gentlemen. Go back and watch wrestling in the 90s. Who was Triple H having a feud with? Even if you want to talk stables, it was still DX versus The Nation. I asked who was the number 1 superstar in wrestling. Where were the Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin feuds? Eventually they got there, but those guys were already stars at the time. The cheat code that is The Rock had already successfully worked. By the time we got to the 2-man power trip, the Hardy Boys were on their way to being stars in the company. So this is almost a brand new era that we're entering before Triple H and Stone Cold had a successful rivalry. Let's go back to Wild Man Mark Mero for just a second. A lot like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Wild Man Mark Mero was just trying to make a name for himself at that time in WWE. Both of these guys were in WCW long before this. And in WCW, Mark Mero and Stone Cold Steve Austin had a rivalry. Some of the matches in the feud was over the United States Championship. So these guys aren't strangers to each other. You just wouldn't be able to tell because when they was in WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin act like he didn't know who the hell Mark Mero was. It's been said that behind the scenes, Stone Cold didn't want to work with Mark Mero. And he didn't think that he should be having matches with mid-card wrestlers. Even to Stone Cold's own admission, he's talked about how it's tradition in the business to not just take any match if you're the top guy. That as a top guy, you have to keep having matches with other top guys. So he's blaming it on tradition. And people are telling me how much of an asshole The Rock is. But in WWE, Stone Cold is steady turning down fades. Most importantly, he's at work and he's telling his bosses no. But I gotta keep hearing about made up shit that The Rock is guilty of. Let me give y'all one more person that Stone Cold refused to work with. Do y'all know a guy by the name of Hulk Hogan? You know, the guy that I mentioned earlier, who was the biggest star in wrestling for almost 20 years. Somehow, in Stone Cold's mind, his style wouldn't complement Hulk Hogan's style. This is his rationale as to why he turned down what could have been one of the biggest matches of his career. A match that, on the other side of it, Hulk Hogan was lobbying for and looking forward to having this match. Regardless of what people think about him, Hulk Hogan really loved professional wrestling. And he's wrestled almost everybody in this sport. Ain't that kind of ironic that a lot of people label Stone Cold as the number one superstar all time? And almost the only match that Hulk Hogan doesn't have in his career is a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he didn't think that his style could complement a guy who was the man before he was. I don't think wrestlers should be judged by mid-card or main event. If you're a good wrestler, you're a good wrestler. But we're talking about Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan put the business on the map. So even if Stone Cold thought that his style didn't match, just out of respect for one of the legends, you wouldn't take this match at WrestleMania? This is the same Stone Cold that said that he didn't want to get in the ring with mid-carders now that he was the top guy. And he said he felt that way because it was tradition. From the stories that we hear on these podcasts and behind the scenes, paying your respects to the legends that came before you is a part of the tradition. So now are we picking and choosing which tradition we're going to adhere by? If you're Stone Cold Steve Austin in WWE and Hulk Hogan wants to have a match with you at WrestleMania, then damn it, you had a match at WrestleMania. How do you tell a legend like that helped build the business? No. But look how the universe always wins. Guess who did take the match with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania? The Rock. But just like The Rock didn't hesitate to put over Brock Lesnar as WWE champion, The Rock didn't hesitate to give Hulk Hogan one last classic match in his career. Inside of the ring, this match wasn't Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. But in terms of star power and what the business is really built on, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan was one of the greatest WrestleMania matches that we all sat there and watched. So I ain't even mad at Steve Austin for turning down that match. Because I guess Stone Cold is right. He wouldn't have got a classic match out of Hulk Hogan. Because that brings us all back to the ultimate point. For my money, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the greatest WWE superstar of all times. I don't want nobody to go nowhere just yet, because I'm just getting started. There's still lots to cover. This is the official podcast debut of Worldwide Classic. This is the heel turn of Southside Trey. Are we going to be honest and admit that Stone Cold is not even as good as The Rock is inside of the ring? He's just not, y'all. We've all seen it. And it's okay. His star power is what made Stone Cold. Now, in the interest of fairness, you're talking to a guy that saw Stone Cold wrestle in New Japan. And I've seen Stone Cold be one of the best wrestlers in the world. There were times in the past you would have thought Stone Cold Steve Austin was Rob Van Dam. I dare say Stone Cold was on some Eddie Guerrero shit. A frog splash was actually in the moveset, pretty much looking like he was part of the cruiserweight division. We all know that he was dealt a bad hand and he had a serious neck injury, and that pretty much changed his in-ring style. It's kinda interesting because I could argue the fact that if Stone Cold didn't have the neck injury, I don't know if he would have been a top guy. His style and his overall presentation was completely different when he was a technical wrestler. I don't know if Vince McMahon would have seen the rattlesnake if Steve Austin had that persona. It's almost like in hip hop how 50 Cent getting shot kinda changed his career for the better. Having an unfortunate situation almost be the missing ingredient to success. So now that I gave Steve Austin a few flowers, let's get back to it. So 7 WrestleManias in Stone Cold's career. The first one was against Savio Vega. That was his sparring partner at the beginning of his career. And for whatever reason, people won't even mention Savio Vega. So here on Worldwide Classic, Southside Trey will. So salute to Savio Vega and being one of those building blocks for Stone Cold Steve Austin. The next WrestleMania after that was against Bret Hart. And that match, even for me as a kid, was the best match that I've seen in professional wrestling. It's funny how 30 years later, that's still true. So you can't take nothing away from Steve Austin with that match. I just want us to keep in mind he was in the ring with the best there is, best there was, the best there ever will be. The next WrestleMania is the flop against Shawn Michaels, because at this time it was said that HBK was fighting his own demons. So I don't know who you want to blame for it, but Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14 was 2 thumbs down. The fourth WrestleMania, it's against The Rock. I notice how nobody ever points out that The Rock was only in WWE about 2 or 3 years before he was main eventing WrestleMania. So it doesn't surprise me why people don't want to put The Rock as the #1 superstar in WWE. We saw Roman Reigns do that, but Roman Reigns is a part of The Rock's bloodline. Kinda crazy how that works. But back at WrestleMania 15, I feel like it was unheard of. Maybe the Ultimate Warrior back in his day. But for The Rock to only have been on TV a couple of years and figure out pro wrestling so fast, people don't give him enough credit for that. And they're also not giving credit that The Rock was the main event for the next 2 WrestleManias after that. WrestleMania 17 was Stone Cold's 5th WrestleMania, and it was a championship match against The Rock. WrestleMania 17 was the 3rd main event for The Rock in a row, and the 2nd time he main evented was Stone Cold. So if we all been keeping up with the score, besides Bret Hart, the only person that Stone Cold has been having successful WrestleManias with is with The Rock. So with that being the case, why stop there? We're just gonna skip over WrestleMania 18, the same WrestleMania where Stone Cold didn't want the match with Hulk Hogan, where The Rock stepped in and stole the show. Stone Cold ended up having a match with Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon. And this is where, even if you're a Stone Cold fan, you have to start asking some real important questions. Like, what the hell was Stone Cold thinking? You turned down the match against Hulk Hogan, but you gladly accepted the match with Scott Hall. And even though Scott Hall is one of our favorites, that match was just like Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. I don't remember it, therefore it doesn't count. Now, I said something else in that was kind of slick if you put it together. The Rock main evented WrestleMania 15 through 17. And even though he didn't main event WrestleMania 18, we could argue that The Rock versus Hulk Hogan was the true main event for that WrestleMania. So essentially, we're talking about 4 WrestleManias in a row where The Rock was the man. So keep that in mind. While I point out that at WrestleMania 19, which was the next year, Stone Cold Steve Austin had his last match against The Rock. What other ways can I spell it out? Quiet as kept, Stone Cold is telling us that The Rock is the greatest superstar of all times. Because if he didn't think that, why the hell did he keep having WrestleMania with The Rock? This is the same Stone Cold that'll gladly turn down the match if it's not up to his standard. If Stone Cold is saying that he wants to wrestle The Rock at these WrestleManias, he's basically saying that The Rock is the top guy. So everything that The Rock did from the 90s up to WrestleMania 19, even that should be enough for the point to be made. Stone Cold pretty much retired at that WrestleMania 19. Meanwhile, people are saying that The Rock went Hollywood. I think I just pointed out that he accomplished everything that there was to accomplish in wrestling, including everything that Stone Cold didn't want any part of. The Rock was pretty much the guy that passed the torch to Brock Lesnar. For the most part, Brock Lesnar was the guy moving forward. So even from that perspective, The Rock passed the torch. I mean, what other way is there to say it? People talking about taking the ball and going home, that's insinuating that there's unfinished business, which for Stone Cold there was, because Brock Lesnar still needed a top guy to put him over. Luckily, WWE had the top guy and just didn't know it because they thought that Stone Cold was it. The Rock still came back the next year at WrestleMania 20 and had a tag team match with Evolution. This is the young Randy Orton and the young Batista. How is this not giving back to the business? I'm really asking. Because did Stone Cold Steve Austin have a match with Randy Orton? Did Steve Austin have a feud with Batista? Was Stone Cold had even worked with Ric Flair again? Even though The Rock and Mick Foley versus Evolution at WrestleMania 20 wasn't necessarily a highlight featured match, there was still highlights in the match, like the interaction between The Rock and Ric Flair. That brief exchange was better than everything Brock Lesnar and Goldberg did in the same event. And guess who was the special enforcer for the Brock Lesnar match? Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, I just can't make this shit up. Stone Cold doesn't want to put Brock Lesnar over clean, but he doesn't have any problem riding the ATV down to the ring, giving the stunner to both guys, talking shit and drinking beer. This is Stone Cold's idea of a contribution to the sport. Now let's address this Hollywood thing real quick, because now my confusion comes back. What's wrong with The Rock going to dominate Hollywood? Back in those days, people didn't even think that a wrestler could be successful in Hollywood. Those were bullets that The Rock took for other wrestlers to get this opportunity. Last year, I even heard some crazy ass article that was trying to rank wrestlers turned actors, putting Dave Batista as number one, John Cena as number two, and The Rock last. Clearly, the audacity goes beyond just the casual fan, because people really have a lot of damn nerve. Let's just look at that from the surface. Let's say that that is true. It's funny how in the world of wrestling, a veteran could get the proper respect. For example, like the stories of hearing how new guys are supposed to shake the hands of the veterans in the locker room, as a show and a sign of respect, as a show of respect for the doors that the veterans open. How does that apply in wrestling, but it doesn't apply to the wrestlers? The Rock has opened the door for guys like John Cena and Batista to do what they're doing. If you want to say Batista is a better actor, that's fine. He should be a better actor because The Rock laid the grunt work. The Rock came up with the blueprint and the system to show these wrestlers how it's done. Are fans really gonna look at John Cena's acting career and not see the parallel? The movies that have put John Cena and Batista on the map in the acting world has been superhero movies. Let's call it what it is. For Batista, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. For John Cena, it's Peacemaker. After The Rock dominated WWE and John Cena and Batista was trying to figure out WWE, The Rock became the Scorpion King. And that movie and franchise set the tone for The Rock's acting career. Give The Rock the credit where the credit is due. People are trying to get out on his movies and say they not good and that The Rock plays the same character. What the hell y'all think John Cena is doing in these movies? The only difference is, I don't know an instance where The Rock was running around naked at an award show. I'm a John Cena fan, but I could argue that John Cena has almost lost himself in Hollywood, because he's doing things for the sake of that career that I wouldn't think John Cena would do. And I'm just waiting on the rest of the wrestling world to get on the same page. The Rock slander is shocking. Even John Cena himself tried to take shots at The Rock once upon a time, about a lot of the same things that the fans are complaining about now. It's funny how John Cena changed his entire tone and is now almost following in the direct footsteps of The Rock. As far as Batista goes, it's kind of interesting that people want to make it a point to say he's a better actor than The Rock. But how come y'all don't want to point out the fact that Batista could never be the star in WWE that The Rock was? Batista was never even close to being that type of main event guy. He was just one of the top guys in a transitional era. I hate to have to be the bearer of bad news, but clearly somebody has to do it. And if it means I turn heel, then so be it. But the truth is gonna set us free. If Batista and The Rock had ever had a feud in WWE, The Rock would expose all of the flaws that Batista had as a professional wrestler. I was a Batista fan, and the best thing Batista did was when he introduced the spotlight. It was just interesting how his greatest character came about around retirement time, when Batista took his ball and went home. Y'all kill me with that phrase, especially using it for The Rock, but won't use it for the other two guys that did the exact same damn thing. But Stone Cold is a part of this conversation too, so let's check back in on him real quick. If Stone Cold could have went Hollywood, then Stone Cold would have went Hollywood. This man has done multiple movies. He's had several shows, podcasts, you name it. Stone Cold wants to be in the entertainment space. The entertainment space just doesn't particularly want Stone Cold. When are we ever going to be honest? Because how are we going to say who's the greatest superstars if we're going to leave out these key details? Stone Cold was even in one movie that he might have thought was going to put him on the map. But then my confusion now turns into a little frustration. Stone Cold was in a movie called The Longest Yard, an Adam Sandler project. And this is a movie about Adam Sandler's character being locked up. And in his time in prison, Stone Cold was the prison guard. That's all fine and well. The only problem I had with it was the fact that Stone Cold was a racist prison guard in this movie. The N-word came out of Stone Cold's mouth a little bit too much for somebody that's a wrestling legend. But let's unpack that a little bit. Why was he even so comfortable taking that type of a role? As a wrestling legend, and according to some people, the greatest superstar of all time, why would you even want a racist label around you, whether it's acting or not? Machine Gun Kelly is an artist and now an actor that also participated in WWE as a guest. Last year, Machine Gun Kelly said something in an interview that I thought he should have been saluted for. And that's when he said that he always turned down any racist roles that was offered, because in his mind, he couldn't see himself saying the N-word even if it is a movie. And I think MGK doesn't get enough credit for making that statement. I believe Stone Cold wanted to be a Hollywood star as well, but taking an ill-advised role like that, I'm pretty sure it halted that process just a little bit. Before he passed away, Hulk Hogan was pretty much blacklisted in the entertainment world. And that stems from an incident where he was using the N-word in an angry rant. Now, I understand Hulk Hogan's situation was real life versus Stone Cold playing a role in the movie. But when it comes to a subject matter like this and a word like that, then just like The Rock says, it doesn't matter. I'm just making sure that we're all keeping everything in perspective. On the other hand, people are acting as if The Rock is just making movies. Are we getting different news articles or something? Because one of the last times I checked, The Rock was one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. I keep hearing all of this talk about how much the man can't act, this, that, and the third. I heard that numbers don't lie. So who really saying what right now? It's been said that Jumanji is about to have another movie on the way. Is that movie a flop? Because from my understanding, this will be the third movie from that reboot. Y'all shitted on The Rock when he just did Smashing Machine. And that's kind of a shame, because you saw how much that it meant to The Rock to do that movie. As you've seen from some of my videos, I consider myself a movie guy. And I can name you 2 movies right now that I thought were great movies from The Rock. One being Faster. Maybe it was a little too fast for people to understand that The Rock did his thing. The second movie, and the most critical of them all, is Snitch. This is why I stopped being confused and I just don't want to hear shit that the haters got to say. Snitch is not only the best movie from The Rock, but it's one of the best movies overall. And The Rock brought his A game. He's alongside of guys like Michael K. Williams and John Birchall. And he's right on level and on point with those 2 guys. So I'm going to ask this question one more time. What the hell are we talking about right now? Did people not see that movie? If you didn't, I recommend it. Then we could talk. Are people just talking shit about The Rock because they just don't like him? If that's the case, cool. But say that. But don't sit here and lie and try to minimize what this man has done in wrestling and in acting. And then turn around and tell me how Stone Cold Steve Austin is the greatest WWE superstar. We can have conversations, but we not gonna lie. So to the people that said that The Rock went Hollywood, was The Rock not a part of WrestleMania 27, WrestleMania 28, WrestleMania 29, WrestleMania 30, and WrestleMania 28 and 29? Was The Rock not the main event against John Cena? Again, passing the torch to the future of the WWE, a lot like he did 10 years prior with Brock Lesnar. This is why I have a lot of respect for John Cena, because John Cena openly admits how much The Rock means to his career, and it stems from that time. I'm pretty sure after that, The Rock could have had some type of small involvement in another WrestleMania. But I know for a fact that he was involved in WrestleMania 40. I know this because The Rock was the biggest story that year in WWE. That includes at the first ever WrestleMania kickoff, where The Rock slapped the shit out of Cody Rhodes. And people were skeptical of that event. But after The Rock slapped Cody Rhodes, it turned out to be the first and greatest kickoff that we've seen. But he took it a step further and he evolved into the final boss. Why is people not giving this man credit? This is why we're spending an hour talking about this topic. I needed to make sure we were calibrated the right way before we go any further. We need to understand who's the best and why. I mean, to each his own, so pick who you want, but let's make sure we have these details in order. Before he passed away, rest in peace to Bray Wyatt, we saw him evolve into the Fiend. We saw him take his character work to a whole nother level. The Rock didn't become the Fiend, but he became the final boss. And when are we going to start giving him the same credit? The final boss was the best thing smoking, and it wasn't nothing close to it. And you talking about a time when Roman Reigns had dominated 5 years straight. But anytime we saw The Rock in the ring with any of those guys, I felt like we saw the difference between true star power. But The Rock wasn't there in a selfish way. He's passing the spotlight around to 3 different people. That being Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes. The Rock could have been selfish and just had the match against Roman Reigns. But The Rock did something that others claim they do all the time. And that's what's best for business. The Rock was involved in both nights at WrestleMania 40. When I watched the disappointment that was night 1 of WrestleMania, when The Rock made his entrance, I said something in my mind that stuck with me to this day. When The Rock made his entrance on night 1, that was the first time that entire night that it felt like WrestleMania. And it's not an over-exaggeration because that was the first time that we saw an actual star make an entrance. And then we saw a man that's over 50 years old have a pretty solid match against guys that are in their prime. Even the spot in the match when Roman Reigns accidentally speared The Rock. The Rock sold the spear better than anybody in WWE ever has. I've seen Roman Reigns spear everybody in WWE. And nobody has sold the spear better than The Rock did at WrestleMania 40. Even The Rock's interaction with Triple H after the slap, backstage. The way that they was talking shit to each other, you would have thought that it was a real element in that storyline. And by the way that we haven't seen The Rock in over a year, it might have been. Next week is WrestleMania 42. This happened at WrestleMania 40. So this is a recent contribution to the sport of wrestling. We saw Stone Cold come out of retirement and have a match against Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. And I thought that was a special moment for WWE. We were all caught off guard because we didn't know that it was actually even going to be a match. It was just supposed to be the KO show. But we soon found out that it turned into the Stone Cold Steve Austin show. It was nice that KO got that spot to go against Stone Cold. But in no way did Stone Cold Steve Austin put over Kevin Owens. And I don't want us to get that confused in any type of way. If anything, Kevin Owens put over Stone Cold. That's why I'm such a KO fan right now. Because as it turns out, KO was the perfect person to carry that match. And I give Kevin Owens even more credit because Stone Cold was really whooping his ass with some of those punches that he was throwing, which is not uncommon for Stone Cold. But that's a whole nother story that I'm not even going to get into. Now I want y'all to check this out as I make my final point. At night 2 of WrestleMania 40, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, all type of chaos broke loose towards the end of that match. And we started to see from different legends from different generations make an appearance. The last two legends that we saw before Cody Rhodes won the WWE Championship was The Rock and it was The Undertaker, as The Undertaker gave the assist to Cody Rhodes. After WrestleMania, there were reports that the WWE was trying to get Stone Cold Steve Austin to be that person to assist Cody Rhodes. And now people are speculating that Vince McMahon had something to do with the creative at that time. In the words of Stone Cold, hell yeah, Vince McMahon was involved. I know that because that move would have been genius. Just imagine that. The rivalry that The Rock has had with Stone Cold Steve Austin over these generations. And now for it to come full circle with the new generation and Stone Cold being the one to stop all of the bullshit that The Rock had going, that would have been one of the most classic moments in all of WWE. Because for the first time in a long time, we wouldn't have saw legends show up just for the sake of showing up. There were actually real stakes involved. Like Seth Rollins said in one of the promos leading up to that match. The future of the business is at stake. And even though this segment has been me putting The Rock as the top superstar, however we want to flip it, Stone Cold and The Rock are one or two. So this was a moment for the top two superstars of all time to pass the torch into the new era of WWE. People say that The Rock turned his back on wrestling for Hollywood. But The Rock was there that night. Stone Cold wasn't. And his usual excuse of having prior obligations was used again. So instead of having that classic moment, we got a pretty good moment. When regular man Undertaker showed up straight out the biker gang and gave The Rock a chokeslam. It was just weird to say it because it was weird to watch. Especially knowing that we could have seen The Rock and Stone Cold one more time. The WWE once again tried to reach out to Stone Cold to get him to be a part of WWE in any way. They wanted to celebrate Austin 316 Day on March 16th. It was some corny shit and really didn't mean much, but it was the thought that counted. Stone Cold is one of the greatest superstars of all time. But for as much as people say that The Rock turned his back on wrestling, The Rock has done more for wrestling than Stone Cold has. Let me leave y'all with this last thought, just for extra credit. This is the second week of April. Last month was March. March 16th landed on a Monday night. March 16th equals 316. All the way up to a week before Monday night, reporters were scrambling trying to figure out if Stone Cold was going to make an appearance. Which goes to show why you should tune into Worldwide Classic. Because we talk about wrestling in a logical way. And over here, we knew damn well Stone Cold wasn't going to be there for no damn 316 day. With all of this technology that's available, Stone Cold didn't think enough of these people to even send in a pre-recorded video message off the iPhone. Something just to tap in with the WWE universe real quick. I guess when Stone Cold gets to drinking and carrying on, throwing up his middle finger at the fans, he mean that shit. This has been the 50th episode of Worldwide Classic. I'm Southside Trey. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Full Time Digital House, and follow me on all social media, Southside_Trey. Appreciate y'all tuning in and making this what it is. And that's one of the best wrestling talk shows that's out today.